This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, so let's begin with Hanuman's question. So Hanumant, when you are trying to run a container in your EC2 instance, it is giving some memory error, right?
Yeah, actually, I did a clone using git clone of
Yeah.
this particular link. That part is done, and after that, I did Docker compose up.
Okay.
I gave that command, and I could see there are a lot of installations happened.
Okay.
So at some point, maybe because the 8 GB space might not have been sufficient, and it threw an error saying that no space left on the device.
Okay. Yeah, that ideally is not the issue of actual space. There are some internal Docker related things that we need to look into. Just a moment. If I have, do I have any bad SSH? Yeah. Yeah. So if I go here, in fact, what I tried with this Judge Zero.
Okay.
Their API is there, right? So this is their API module. There also they have a Docker Compose. Ideally, what I saw, their image is 800 MB image, but you get the same error when you try Docker API.
Okay. Okay.
So, and I tried, like, I have faced this issue. I tried hunting around. So let me just give it try mkdir temp. I go to temp, say git clone. So a lot of people recommended what you should do is you should go and use ECS to get around this problem. That is what I found, but I have not tried that solution though. So here, if you
Easy.
go, sorry, that is ECS, Elastic Container Service in
Okay.
AWS.
Okay.
So this is, so what that is internally, like, you just give them a file. Like Docker Compose is something that Docker understand, that their service, Elastic Container Service, understands a different file, which is their own proprietary file. So you can convert your Docker Compose file to their format, and after that, they figure out how to bring your service. Then you don't have to spawn your own EC2 instance. So it is like it's a service which allows you to bring up your containers.
Okay.
Right. So this is one. Ideally, like, the thing that I wanted to show you was this Docker Compose up -d. Right. Okay, so it needs a file. Let me say copy just 0 API to just this. So it needs that file to start. So here, when it starts pulling up this image, so if you see, there are a lot of parts that it is trying to pull. Okay, I don't know here. And it will hit the same error because I tried running the API into a Docker container and I saw that error coming.
Okay, because if you want to modify something in the code provided by them and see by running it, right? So this is the way how we do it, right? Like I
Sorry, can you
modify some
repeat?
part of see now I did a clone of the complete code, and what the intention behind doing this is I will modify a certain part of the code and see whether to see the reflected changes, like whether it could be UI or it could be some other logic. So this is how we need to approach, right? Okay.
Yeah. So depends. Like sometimes what they do, if I look at the Docker Compose file, it will give us a fair idea of what they are doing. So in this Docker Compose, if you see in this API section, what they are doing is they are actually taking the image from online.
Okay.
Right? This image tells us that it will download an image and it will start using it. Then your modifications will not be applied. Here also it is image, here also it is image. Here also it is image. So ideally, if you see, if I am using this Docker Compose file, no use. This is just downloading the image. So this is C. If you see error, no space left on device, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So this exact error I tried searching, and I think in EC2 Docker it gives some issue and some configuration we need to figure out. So if you are trying this, I'll suggest like try on your laptop, because this image works on my laptop but not in EC2.
Okay, okay.
Right. So bigger images it is not taking. I don't know why. So maybe something we need to figure out and investigate. And people were suggesting use EC, that Elastic
Yes.
Container Service, to get around this problem. And some people were suggesting that you need to change some storage driver for this.
Can you type a df command just to see the space left?
Okay, sure.
Because mine
DF.
was okay,
So DF wise, if you see,
52%.
yeah,
Okay,
just
I
lift the
don't know why.
volume.
Actually, I tried only that eShop on containers, and I think it
Mhm.
went up to 84%. I think I need to do some cleanup because 84% on
Okay.
my EC2 instance.
Okay. Actually, this is, I just have pasted that error here. And if you see steps to reproduce, I mean, a lot of people face this
Hmm.
issue. Same issue, same issue. So after given no temp fs. Okay, solution is not there, but yeah, people are cribbing about the same issue. This one failed to register layer, failed. Oh no, this is different. In our case, it was no space left on disk, right? Yeah,
Yes.
I don't have a solution to this, but yeah, this issue I have seen, like when we are downloading bigger images, it comes. Not sure
Okay.
if bigger volume will support this, because one thing that we can simply try is when we create our EC2 instance, it gives an option to specify the size of EBS, like how big storage you want. But here, if you see, this volume actually has 52% usage, right?
Correct. Okay.
So space-wise, it should not have any challenge.
Yeah, okay, one more thing. So as a
Yeah,
part of this Docker compose command, right, we are downloading a lot of
yeah.
packages or any other executables, right? As
Mm-hmm.
we can see from
No, we are downloading
uh,
just images.
images. So, so where those down images will be stored, how can we clean them up after we are done with the usage? It will
Okay,
be
so they are
stored in,
stored on our disk only. So if I say Docker images, enter, it shows these are the images that I have, right?
okay, okay.
Now I can say, so there is a series, I mean, video series that I shared in the group, and I link to that is there in MentorPick also,
Yes, yes, yeah, I saw that. Okay. Yeah, I know
right? So
the
in
link.
that I have shared those commands. So if I say Docker, RMI is the command to remove images. You can say Docker images and Docker images -a. So it will go and remove all the images. So ideally, if you see, this is deleting all the images for me now.
Okay.
Right, so whatever images were there, if I say Docker images now, if you see, there is no image. Docker PS shows running images. Docker PS -a shows running as well as stopped images.
Okay, okay. Yeah. Yeah, that's all. So yeah.
Okay, so if this has a lot of containers, as I saw, like this project that you're talking about.
Correct, correct.
Yeah. Okay, so this is overall microservices of eShop, huh?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and if you use any Linux machine or as your desktop or a Mac machine, you can try that. On Windows, I don't know, like at least on my laptop, Docker doesn't work.
Yeah, I have a Linux laptop with Ubuntu on it, so I'll try on
Yeah,
that.
sure.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, now coming to Rajiv's question. Rajiv asked like search engine. I'm not able to think how to even start or proceed about crawler or search engine. So does anyone did anyone think, because today's question also nobody responded in the group. Yeah, anyone, any idea?
Yes, basically. So we want to like the basic problem is we want to get the all the data from a web page, and we want to build an
Correct.
index out of it so that it can be searched easily in the next call.
Yeah.
So that is like basically ask what is like what needs to do, and like logically we have to divide the system into many parts, like broadly two parts. One is like putting data, and one is like extracting data. So that
Right.
putting data part will be like the crawler will do, and the search engine will try to extract the data based on the indexes we have built. So
Yeah. So ideally, like what what kind of output do we want from the, you can say, the crawler? Like you want index out of it, right, Amrinder?
correct, yeah,
And index will be certain thing like call a database,
correct.
right? So how do we? What kind of database are you envisioning for this, or what table are you envisioning?
That answer, like a specific answer I cannot tell, like I have to.
Sure. Sure, no worries. Like, let's come to that conclusion so that people are clear about what exactly we are expecting. So we want to build a search engine, that is clear, right?
Correct,
A search engine wise, let's define the input of search engine. So what kind of input would we want to give? We would give one line of text, right?
correct.
So let's say if I give a line of text as merge sort. So this is my input. So can we say like we have two words here? Ignore these double quotes for now. But if we read, we can take a string, we can break them into parts, and we can say the total words that we are having are to merge and sort. That is how the requirement was shared in the group today, right?
Yes,
What kind of output do we want for this?
basically all the text or link which are having this merge stop.
Yeah, so ideally you will give title of a page, you will give link of the page. This is what Google also does. So if I go to Google and I say merge sort, so what we see is there is some sort of title here, and there is a link here, and there is a description also. For now, we do not worry about the description. Yeah. So, so very naive way, if we want to think that we want to give title and link as output, and we want this as a database query only. We go to database, we make this query that give me all the pages which have word merge and sort. So we should have title and link stored in the database at least, right? So what kind of table will suffice? Even if it is a basic table, not normalized and all, any basic table structure can we come up with? If that is there, we can serve this data. Yeah, guys,
Like
anyone? Yeah,
it's
Amrit, go
like
ahead.
uh, varchar data we can say, or we can say blob data basically.
Okay. What will the data
So
be?
it's a title and link, right? It's a 2D
Yeah. So you
database.
have,
Title, yeah.
so can
Title
we say database table will have a word?
or word.
Can
Okay,
we
the
have
but
description
we can
kind
have.
of a
Yes.
call?
So it will be like uh, see title and link. Link is the URL, right? And title is nothing but the title of the link. That will be one table. So we will have a title
That's
ID
fine.
separately.
Okay.
And what we need to capture also capture is see here merge and sort are two different words. Merge and sort are two different words. So each word must be related to the title and link. There should be a relationship, right? So that we are trying to find out the combination, that is merge sort means merge plus sort. So we will list out the common title or links which contain both merge as well as sort. So the table will contain word and and it will contain title.
Title and link.
Now, if you see, ideally, we are talking about one table. Let me put that as a word table, which has list of all the words that we have found so far.
Yeah.
Okay. And if we take a page table, let's say which has page ID, its title, and its URL.
Yeah.
Now, if we want to know, one word can be on 2 pages also, 10 pages also, right?
Yes.
If I put another table which says this word ID is found on these all pages. If I have just this basic structure, can I serve this need or not?
Yes.
So Rajiv, is this making sense? I mean, just a basic thing we have done. All the words,
Yes.
all the
Yes, sir.
pages, and we have just a mapping. So with this, ideally, if you see an example wise, let's say word ID is 1 and word is merge. Same way with a word ID is 2, we have sort. So words we are putting here. Next we put page ID, let's say 1, and first page is Geeks for Geeks something, and we have Geeks for Geeks again with merge sort. Now ideally, if we want, we can store one more thing here. Word count also. How many times this word is found on this page, right? That data will help us in doing the rank.
Yes.
Okay, so a basic thing will be this. So then if somebody says where is merge found, we will say merge is found in page number, page ID 1, page ID 2. So this mapping we can store easily here. And how many times it is found can also be stored. So for now, with the Navy implementation, if we want to go, we should be good to go with this kind of structure, right?
So, like, if we are searching merge sort, why we are tokenizing that?
Okay, that is
Hello.
to simplify the need. Ideally, if you look at the question that I sent today, the question was simply saying, let me see if I have my WhatsApp opened. Yeah, just that it is taking some time. So ideally, see, if we start with a bigger problem statement, which is vague, then clarity will not come. So what I sent, I can check in my phone so that we are clear about the problem statement. Yes,
I
I'm just
think
typing it from phone what I sent as a problem
I
statement.
think
Yeah.
that.
Oh yeah, this is helpful. So this was just to kind of keep our focus clear. What is it that we are designing? So yeah, thanks, Anand. So this is what I sent, Rajiv. Design database tables and relationship for web crawler and search engine index to be built by the crawler. You can assume search engine to be simple text search engine. Given a user query, it should return a list of results, which is nothing but title plus URL, containing all the words of the given string. So we are trying to return only those pages which contain both the words. So if there is a page which contains merge, we are not returning that. If it contains merge and sort both, we are returning those pages. Does that help, Rajiv?
Yeah, yeah, yes.
Yeah, so ideally, if this was the data, we would have returned only 12 as the page, not as 10.
Okay.
So that we have some clear starting point, what do we want to build. And it will give, later on, kind of enhancing it, will be just modifying the database queries.
Okay. Yeah.
Why are we keeping a track of word count? I missed that point.
Sorry, Ritika?
Uh, we are maintaining this word count as a separate column, right? So I missed the point. Like, why are we maintaining this value?
Okay, so imagine, Ruchika, two pages have both these words, right? So let's say 10 and 12 both have these words.
Okay.
Sorry, page number 1 has both the words, page number 2 has both the words, right?
Yes.
So ideally, if you see from word count, can I say page 1 has merge sort more than page 2? I mean, the frequency of merge and sort on page 1 is more.
Right. Yeah.
So if that is the case, we can use this data to sort the results, because ideally when results come, in which order do you want to show,
Okay. 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 Yeah. Got it, sir.
right? So this was like, in case we want to leverage this data in future, it will be useful. It can be leveraged. Ideally, there are more things also that Google kind of search engine will do, that they will also have a data like when you show this as a result, page number 1, 2, 3, 4 as a result, they also measure the click count. So if you always click third link, they keep making the rank of third link always enhances. So next time people start searching, third link will start appearing as first link. So they kind of also build the analytics. The link people are using more should have better ranking. So this is from that angle,
Okay. Okay. Got it.
right? Yeah. So it should give us a fair idea. Okay, if these three tables are there, we can put up an easy, simple search engine for people to kind of use, right? Yeah. And if I come here, where is that? CD Git repos. Do I have anything? Let me see our projects. Code search engine, nodemon, npm I. Okay, I don't have Node.js installed, so I'll say yum-y install Node.js, or it will be Node. Okay, sudo Node.js on EC2 install. Okay, so this command, and nvm install node. Okay, not sure. But anyways, like there is a UI I just wanted to show you. This is a UI for a search engine, which is just a basic page which you can say has just a code box and a button for search. So we can create a simple page where we type the query. When we hit the search button, what should happen? The JavaScript code on the front end should take this, send it to the server, and whatever answer server sends back, we should display that over here as results. So that is the idea. And now to send the data back and receive the data from the backside, we will have to write REST APIs. Right. So that I'll see, like, if I can share a solution also with you, which you can do. Like, so far, whatever containers we have shared, you are able to kind of get the source code of that with UI. So you can try using a UI and modifying that according to your needs. Right. So Rajiv, this should answer your first question, like how do we get started on this assignment part, right?
Yeah, yes.
Yeah. So this was the search engine side. Now, web crawler needs to build these tables, right?
Yes.
So then we have to put thought across what should a web crawler be. So for that, can I say, can you write a function to download a page from online? Given a URL. Okay, there's a lot of disturbances coming from your side. Yeah. So writing a function in any language that you code in, do you think like you can come to a point where you can write one function which downloads a given page? So you can say it's like download page. Input that you give is string URL, and output that you should get is, let's say you can give a string back. So this is download page content. And second function, if I ask you to write get next URLs, if you are given a URL, go to that page, download that page, extract all the next URLs, and return a list of those URLs. These two functions, if we want to write in any language that we code in, does everyone feel comfortable? Like we can search online and figure out how to extract this part.
What is this get next URL will do?
This is mainly for recursive crawling, Amren. So when you go to one page, that page will have more links, right? It's a graph. Web is a graph.
Okay. Okay.
So this is mainly for recursive crawling. And whenever you reach to a page, you can extract the page content. So ideally, two sort of functionality you need, right?
So if it is like again and again, like suppose one page pointed to some others, like suppose Geeks for Geeks pointed to interview with code and interview with
Yeah.
pointed to Geeks for Geeks.
Mm-hmm. So
So it will,
duplicate handling also has to be done.
okay. Okay. So we are not talking about just simply, it should go to next URL.
Yeah. So I mean, see,
Currently, that
if you have this function which gives you next set of URLs, it is just extracting the URLs for you. That's it.
correct. Yeah.
Now some more code will be using this function, and that code will have some sort of in-memory set so that it can avoid duplicates, right? It can avoid cycles.
Okay.
So this is, I can call this class as download page. So at a ground level, we are saying, hey, we need one class which allows us to download page and get the content. Just giving a direction to think about, right? Now, once you have page downloaded, this function that we are talking about, this is extract content of page, which we are talking about without HTML tags, right? So ideally, if you ask in Python, it is a lot easier to write crawlers, and in Node.js also it is a lot easier. In fact, we can get some standard code also online. So Node.js extract links from page. So there is something
So
called
after
extract.
downloading that all page, we need
Yeah.
to keep in disk all page content, how it will be.
Now it depends how we are implementing it, right? So ideally, one way I can do is I can give it one URL. Let's say for me, I call a class called recursive crawler, or let's say crawler. So we say to this void crawl all pages recursively. It takes one URL from you and it goes and recursively crawls everything, right? So when you get this URL, you call this function download page content. Now, this is rather than downloading, this is extracting. It is giving you a string back. Now it is storing, not storing, up to you. So right now what I have defined is this is extracting the page content. In memory itself, you can do that. Right, Rajiv?
Okay. Okay.
Second thing you can do, you can say, hey, this function, rather than putting it in memory, it will return a file object. So it will store on some hard disk location. In that case, you will also need a field called disk location where you want to store it. Directory location, right? So this is all the files will be there in this directory, because in order to create that file, it will need that location. Now, if you want to just, a crawler can go download all the pages, keep putting on your hard disk. That is one way we can envision. Third way you can say is, rather than storing on hard disk, just store all these files as blob in the database. But eventually, you want the content of the page, and using that content, your ultimate goal is to put that content in this format into your database. These three tables you want to fill. Now, in order to fill this table, you want to do in-memory calculations, you want to do disks-based calculations, that all is up to you, right? Okay. Yeah, so this is one such example. Chirayo is a Node.js module which allows you to kind of parse the content of a page. So ideally, if you see what this code is doing, it is using a third-party request module to make requests. It is using Chirayo. This is a parser. So search term, it is searching for some term, screen space scraping, and it is going to Bing URL. Now it is requesting this URL. So the way Node.js works is, whenever you make a call to this URL, if the call succeeds, it will call this function. It will call this function with three parameters: error, response, and body. Now, whatever content comes of the page, it will come in the body. Body is given to Chirayo. So it is loading all the body in this dollar symbol. Now from dollar, we are saying $A. So that means select all the hyperlinks. And then for all links, there is a loop. For each link, what it is doing, it's writing a function. This is the link index, I believe. And this is the actual hyperlink. So ideally, if you see, this will go and print the links that it is getting. So if I want to run this code, I can just copy this code, go to my disk here. Let me come back to my laptop. So I say kdir crawl links. So this will extract links from one page. For Node.js, I'll say npm init. So this is to create the project. So enter. Yeah, I'm just going all next. So then I say code dot. So I'll open Visual Studio Code. Now a package file is created. This is my project file. And in this, I'll create index.js file, index.js, paste the content here. This is the code. Now I know I need to use request module and Chirayo. So I'll say npm install -- save Chirayo, and second one was request. So it will download those two modules. These are, you can say, third-party libraries. Like in Java, when we use third-party, we use either Maven or Gradle, so that we download the jar files from there. So these two modules would have been downloaded in a folder called node_modules. So those modules have come. That means now I'm all set to run this code. So if I say node space index.js, so let's see what it does. So it has, ideally, if you see, it has gone to Bing. It has made a request to that URL. Ideally, if URL we are not printing, so let me print this URL. So console.log URL is plus URL, right? So I'll print this, run it once again. Yeah, and on top I'll go to that URL that I printed. Yeah, here. So this is the URL it is opening. I just go to the browser to validate. So it is going to this page. First link is this. So where is the, yeah. So here, after printing the URL, it is going and it's finding multiple hrefs. So it is finding all these. Some links are relative, so it is finding these links. It is finding these links on the page. So ideally, if you see, it is dumping all the content it is finding on the page. So this is extract A. So ideally, we will have to do one more processing. We will have to do, if the link are relative links, they are not starting with HTTP, then we'll have to put this particular thing in front of every link, right? So if you see, like, this is just 12 line of code, which is allowing us to download and get the content of the page in a variable. So body is nothing but a variable. And in Java, that day I talked about JSoup is something similar to cheat.io in Java. So using JSoup, you can see, you can go to a URL, do a get, you will get a document back. From that document, you do a title. Then from that document, you can select. So you can give some sort of X paths, or you can give some CSS path. It will give you, like, so here it is giving a class path, which is giving you some headlines. So this is something that will allow you to do the same thing in Java, right? So you don't have to write all these things from scratch, but your parsing logic or extracting the page content is something that you will mainly worry about. How do I get that faster? Because your main intent is to have the overall thing working. So let me go back to what we were discussing. So this is like giving you an idea. If you have a download page and extraction function written, for which you can do online search and extract that, then you can go and crawl recursively. So given a start URL, from that URL, you can extract next URLs. From that, you can extract even further URLs. You have to do some sort of duplicate management over here. Dupe management. Now, one idea that typically comes to our mind is we can simply go with a hash set, in-memory hash set, which will be for duplicates. But here you are talking about crawling Geeks for Geeks. So the number of pages in Geeks for Geeks is huge. So if you try doing that, some place your set where you are storing all the hyperlinks, it will kind of cause memory limit exceeded, right? Because number of links are more. Does that make sense for everyone? Like, because every link we are crawling, we are adding to this so that we don't visit that again. So at some point, like if number of links we are crawling is huge, then memory becomes a bottleneck. So what we can do for that also, rather than putting it in memory, we can start dumping it to another table. Right. So we can say crawled pages, a table, and second table we can put as, which is, you can say, yet to crawl. So as you keep on discovering the links, you can keep adding them to yet to crawl. Once you have visited a link, found a link, extracted it, you can move that to crawled page. So that way you are putting your memory pressure onto disk. It will be slow. It will be, it will not be that fast as memory would have been, but you can go with this approach. Right. So any further questions, Rajiv, on this? Does it give you a fair idea?
Yeah, got some idea. We'll
Mhm.
try now.
Yeah. Yeah, and getting started wise, most of the times we don't get such opportunities in our day-to-day life where we are implementing a crawler, because most of the times when companies need, there are open source crawlers available that people will directly go and use. So we do not put that thought from scratch, and that too, like in office, overall team will be there, so other people will also be thinking of the same problem. Usually we work on a module. So there is a open source crawler, Nutch. I'll suggest not to go and read that until unless you have come up with your own idea or your own crawler. But this is something highly extensible, highly scalable web crawler, well matured, production ready web crawler. This is something, again, an open source crawler, Nutch from Apache. So once you have come up with your own idea, your own thing, after that you can start exploring or reading like what other crawlers are there and how far they are from your design, right? And in case one more thing helps, I'll share that detail also with you guys. Let me see, TIR CDA system design. I'll share one more resource that will have more tables and well planned crawler. So that is somebody's college project where he has put a project report for it, how the crawler was implemented. And so okay, it will take some time. Yeah. CD, our projects, web crawler, not this. Okay, yeah, this is one more thing that if you want, I can show you. I had put up some basic Geeks for Geeks crawler. So again, this is something similar to what we have seen. Yeah. So get next URL function that we were talking about, that is written here. So what we are doing is here we are putting a crawler.q. So we are giving the first URL, and ideally in this we can give the multiple URLs also to begin with. So this is C. C is a crawler. So I found some crawler module also. So in this crawler module, you are giving some initial set of URLs. Then this crawler module provides you a callback function. So ultimately, whatever pages you have provided, it will go to that page, and whatever it downloads, it will provide you the data here. This callback will be called for every crawled page. So when you crawl, that means you are getting one page out here. From that, I'm extracting all the URLs, and I'm putting all those URLs also in crawl queue. Ideally, if you see, this is what I'm doing. So first thing is take crawler, put the first link here. Now this crawler is giving you a function in such a way that when it downloads one page, it calls this function. So if this function is called, page is downloaded. So what I'm doing, from that page, I'm extracting the new links. I'm not worrying about content right now. Here, if you see, I'm extracting all the hyperlinks. If this is next link is not null, for each link, what I'm doing, I'm extracting the total URL. I'm normalizing it. Get next URL. Normalizing is, that is what I was saying. If relative URLs are there, I'm adding base URL to that. So that this is a function I wrote. Here, if I'm saying if the href is pointing to a JPEG file, PNG file, CSS file, JS file, just ignore them. If URL does not include Geeks for Geeks, that means if Geeks for Geek is pointing to some third-party site, I'm not interested in crawling external sites. So I'm returning null from here. If URL starts with slash, that means it's a relative URL. I'm adding base URL to it. Otherwise, I'm just returning the URL. So what will happen? I'll get a normalized URL here. I'm saying if normalized URL is not null, and if it is not visited, then I'm putting that in queue. I'm adding that to a visited queue, and I'm saying so far I have visited how many, and what is the next page that I'm going to visit. So if I run this, it is not storing anything. It's not extracting the content. So node index.js. Let's hit enter and see that it is going to these many pages. And somewhere, Geeks for Geeks will block us after downloading certain pages. It will start giving error to us that we are sending too many requests to them. And most of the sites do that. Typically, they implement some rate limiter for one client. So far I'm getting all the pages. If I stop here, if you see in set, I have 8955 pages so far. That means we have crawled or we have found those many links. Let me continue. So at least till 20,000, 28,000 it will go, and after that it will start erroring out. And this is a program we are talking about that you have to write in Java or any other language that you code in. So ideally, if you see all the links that I'm putting in the set, they are unique links. And now only thing that additionally we have to do here is when we get the page source code, from that page source code, whatever I'm putting in Cheer.io, where is this Cheer.io? Yeah. So source code comes in this response $. So this is where the source code is coming. If I get the source code extracted in a string, if I break them into tokens and start putting them in the database, I will fill up my database table where word and corresponding URL I can put. Let it run in background and then we'll see.
Only one quick question here.
Sure, Amrendra, go ahead.
What is the business use case of this crawler? Because it's like is some of a criminal sort of like it's not a good activity, right? If you are bombarding a request on some site, so that genuine requests are
True.
also getting blocked. And
Correct.
and like I have never seen anywhere in any like the places I work, they are using this crawler mechanism. So like,
Mhm.
what are the business use cases? How they used it?
Okay, so business use cases wise, Amrez, the crawler is a valid business use case. Like, how does Google get to know all the pages that or all the sites that are coming up every day? How does Google get all the data? They also crawl it, right?
They have to register, right? Like
So register with?
register with their search, like this optimize SEO techniques and what they do,
No, no,
like
no, no,
searching.
no. No, ideally, see any site that you create. Earlier, that used to be the case that people who are creating their site, they wanted themselves to be shown up in the search engine. So they used to go and register themselves with Google search that, hey, Google, start showing our site in your results, right?
Correct.
But these days, nobody does that manually. Google figures out new sites automatically. That's the reason Google came up with their blogger. So people, rather than buying their new sites, if they start creating their blogs for Google's indexing that, crawling that is much easier because it lies in their own data centers. Their crawling activity reduces. That's why they say Blogger is free. But it's not free. Ultimately, they are creating their search engines data out of their own data center. They are somewhere workarounding that problem of crawling, right?
Okay.
So what you are talking about, it's a valid question that you are asking because I can cause a denial of service, right? If I am
Correct.
running multiple crawlers from multiple machine on a server, that server will be overloaded with unnecessary bots, these requests. So this is where security comes into picture. And security guideline says that whenever requests are coming to the server will keep a tab on how many requests the server is sending, and it will start erroring out after a certain amount of requests. So that is the throttling, that is the rate limiting that people who develop the sites have to kind of honor, right? So if you are designing a site, you are provisioning it for 10,000 users, but if one bot is sending 10,000 requests to you, so you will put some rate limiter for every client. If one client is sending 10,000 requests to you, you will not accept that. So for them, I tried past also. They were having some limit around, right now it has crossed, no, around 27,000 pages. After that, I started getting connection timeout error I'll get. And one more thing, Amrendra, around this thing, there are some legalization, standardizations things also happens. Typically, sites provide a file called robots.txt. So there is a robots file site provide. robots file, which tells which pages you should not crawl or which
Like
pages you can
you
crawl.
should
So
not
this is
crawl, or they will limit it.
how to crawl their pages. So ideally, it should say it is part of robots exclusion protocol, a group of web standard, how robots crawl this. So ideally, it can say which pages are allowed, which are disallowed. So this is like disallow. This is the basic format of this. URL strings not to be crawled. So this is like site is telling you you should not be crawling these pages. If they want to specify, they can. And the legal rule says web crawler should honor this file. If you are writing a crawler, you should read this file. Based on this file, you should kind of decide your crawling strategy.
Okay.
Right. Yeah, so we do not typically crawl, like as you said, in our previous company or any other company, we didn't use to crawl, but there are a lot of sites which gather the data, which collect the data, which will do all this analysis. So they will have their crawlers running. In
I
fact,
see
in
some
MentorPick, we have,
SEO guys.
huh?
So sorry. In SEO guys, right? The guys who work in
Yeah,
SEO part,
yeah.
they do some kind of steps, but I don't know what meaningful data they are getting it, because if I restrict them, they will not get data when they want. So
Mm-hmm.
as a better alternative, if we have a API integration, I can request like the data, give me this data and I can use for my better analytics or whatever purpose I want to use it.
Correct.
So the validity or the what is the usefulness of this technique, still I'm trying to figure it out.
Okay,
Suppose if
usefulness
I
of this
restrict it.
technique,
Yeah,
Amrendra,
Google you said
if you
one
have
use
a
case.
static website, there is no database in the backend, there is no no dynamic content coming. You just have put a static website where you are just writing some blogs, maintaining some diary, HTML, CSS, JavaScript code, right?
Okay, okay.
Now crawlers or anybody who needs that data to be shown on their site, they have to crawl it, right? Because there is no API way to fetch that.
Okay, got it. Yeah. In
Right?
that case, it makes sense.
Yeah. And mostly aggregators do that. Mostly search engines do that. Even SEO tools do that. They go and search the content on a page. There are site analyzers also. Site analyzers are like, there are tools which go, you just go and submit your site URL, they scan your site and they tell you the vulnerability in your site. They tell the technologies that your site is using. So there are some site analyzers also.
Okay.
Right. So ideally, if you are putting your site out open in market, then obviously an architect will think from security point of view also. If somebody is bombarding us with the requests, we have to take care of that scenario. So like if you see Geeks for Geeks is scaling to these many requests. So ideally, we have fetched these many pages. Ideally, if I would have downloaded all the content, it would have been allowed. Right? Okay, I'll stop it rather than kind of.
Yeah, I have a question. So right now,
Yeah,
what
no
we have
problem.
seen is we have only one crawler which is trying to, visit all the pages, right?
That's right.
There is
Yeah, right now
there
it's
is only
just one loop.
one crawler. So let's take that only Geeks for Geeks is the site of interest, and
Okay.
in the distributed web crawler scenario, so how we will leverage multiple workers or multiple servers. So
Okay.
the entry point is the one. The entry point is one, that is Geeks for Geeks,
True.
and we may have a predefined list of known sites, but so how we can delegate the work equally to or distribute the work equally to all the servers.
Okay. So this is like let's talk about. So there is a, let me call it, there is an engine which is crawling, right? Engine for crawling.
Yeah.
You give a URL to this engine, single URL or a group of URL, list of URLs or one URL. What this engine should do, this should give to someone called downloader.
Yes.
The purpose of downloader is just to hit the internet and download the page. Correct?
Correct.
Now, once the page is downloaded, engine should get to know the pages are downloaded. Engine should give the page to parser. Right? Parser will go and parse and put in the database and tell that I'm done, right?
Yes.
Now, look at this block diagram. Can I say that this downloader that are there, I don't want to have one downloader. I want to have multiple machines, each running one crawler process which wants to download, right? What this engine will do, like any page that is found, that is discovered, any link that is discovered, we'll put that in a queue. Can we put them in the queue?
Yeah, correct. Okay.
So whatever I'm doing here, rather than just printing on the console, can I put all of them in the queue?
Yes, yes.
Now, if there is a queue in which I'm putting, I will use a distributed cache, or you can say distributed hash map also to know the duplicate detection, to do the duplicate detection, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Now, can I say I can run this same program that I'm running, node index.js, on 5 separate machines, and all I have to make sure is that whatever first machine is fetching, whatever pages first machine is fetching, the second machine should not fetch, because otherwise then all the crawlers are doing the same thing. But we want to crawl more pages with more workers, right?
Yes.
In order to do that, in order to make sure that they are working on different set of pages, we somewhere have to bring a, now the hash map here. Here I'm using an in-memory set because it's a one machine problem. But if I'm dealing with multiple machines, then I need this set to be certainly at a place where that is a central place.
Yeah, visible to all the workers.
Exactly. So I will start putting queues here, and I'll make sure the downloaders are, like, engine is picking a URL from this queue. It goes and says download that, extract new URLs, and put all the new URLs here. So the work of all the new URLs is happening here. Now the parser will pick the values from the queue, parse, put in here, and remove that entry from the queue. And along with queue, you need a set also, distributed set.
So for a distributed set, we can use Redis, right? Redis has some.
Yeah, you can use Redis, you can use Memcached, or you can have your own full-fledged service built for providing your distributed key value pair. This is one of the interview questions that people ask.
Okay.
That how do you build your own distributed hash map? Sorry, right?
Okay.
Yeah. Scrapey architecture. In fact, I'll share one more resource with you guys. Python has a crawling framework, and this diagram will be really useful for you if you want to see. See, this is saying spiders are, you can say, whatever in our context we talked about downloaders. No, not downloaders, sorry. Spiders are the ones which are extracting the content. Yeah. So spider extract the contents. Downloader downloads the page. So if you see, this is our engine. There is a scheduler also, which is actually scheduling. So first thing here you see, spider makes some request to engine, the first URL. So in spider, you give the URL. After that, it goes to scheduler that, hey, this URL schedule for crawling, schedule for someone to extract and, sorry, download and extract. So scheduler, it gets to scheduler, puts a request to engine. What engine does, after 3, engine puts that to downloader. So engine is coordinating here, if you see. Engine says to downloader, so this is a queue here. Treat this as a message queue. So whatever goes here, some downloader process will pick it from the queue and it will respond that I'm done. 6th step, it is going to spider for doing the parsing. Then it comes back. Then there is an item pipeline. This can feed to your database.
Okay.
So you can say this is a high-level design for a crawler.
Okay. So just to repeat, Spider is something that will do the depth first search or breadth first search of the URLs, right? I mean, that is the meaning of spider or the crawler, right? I couldn't
Yeah, I
differentiate
mean,
between engine and spider,
okay,
the
no.
responsibility.
So yeah, spider is the name that they have used in their terminology. Scrapey is again a kind of a framework in Python for crawling. Spider is ideally what? In real world, spider is that spider something that crawls the web, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So the name they have given, according to their terminology, what they are calling as spiders. Let's see. So here you can define your multiple spiders. So spiders are the classes which define how a certain site will be scraped, including how to perform the crawl and how to extract the data. In other words, spiders are the place where you define your custom behavior for crawling and parsing. So here, this is doing crawling and parsing both. Right?
Okay. I'll go through this. Yeah.
Yeah. So basically,
Yes.
Python has given you this framework, like we were talking about this crawler here. So this crawler that I am using, similar way Python has Spider. It's a very popular framework for writing your own crawlers. Right. So in this, you just have to define one class, and rest all is taken care by the framework. Okay, Amrendra, one more good case I'll tell you. I came across one GitHub repository long back. You know what one guy has done? He has written a crawler. What it does, it creates. Yeah, so this is a very good use case since Amrendra was asking for this. So what it does, it creates ebooks out of Geeks for Geeks. So see, tree source code here, and where are they? Do we have PDFs here? And you'll be amazed to see what work this guy has done. Geeks for Geeks. No, are there any files? Let me search here. Find file star.pdf. Okay, then this is not the repo. So what this guy does, crawls the Geeks for Geeks. So imagine you want only binary tree related questions to be coming from Geeks for Geeks. This is an automation which crawls those pages, creates a PDF out of it, and gives you the PDF. And that PDF, looking at the PDF, you cannot tell that this is a Geek for Geeks site. He has done his own formatting also.
Okay.
So it seems something like this.
This is the very nice use case.
Exactly.
Sometimes you get lost in gigs or gigs.
Right. So, and the other repo I remember seeing was he has put all the PDFs he has created. He has put them also as goodies. This one should be, yeah, this is the one. Yeah, this is what I was referring to. EPUB and Mobi, they are not PDFs. So I think they are mainly for some ebook readers. So ideally you can put them in Kindle and use them. I don't know if I have any EPUB reader. Yeah, so this is loading. Yeah, so ideally if you see, this is a book created out of Geeks for Geeks. And see, go to the first. See the formatting here. You cannot say this is taken from there because he has written his own parser. He's extracting the content and he's showing. See, all the source code and all this is coming from Geeks for Geeks.
Okay.
At least this answers your question. Who will use crawlers, right?
Correct.
Yeah. And yeah, it's all capability. Like people envision these things, think of these things, and go and build that as a project. So if you want, I can put this Git repo also as link, because I had this idea that can I create a book out of Geeks for Geeks. I just searched online and I came across this repo.
No, this is very good. Like many people don't like Geeks of it just for this. So much complexity. It's like things are not organized.
Yeah. Okay. And that's the reason, if you remember, I was mentioning that once you implement your own crawler, then you see like you would have covered a lot of ground in development side. Because see, when we are more than 5 years experience, 10 years experience, hitting this question, and thanks Rajiv for raising that without hesitation. we come to a point where we say, yeah, we are not even able to think, how do I get started? And that is the situation we get into when we are giving design interviews. We hit a roadblocker and we feel like, seemed like a simple question, but I was not even able to think. And this is truth that happens because if we have not done these things in Indian education system, we never do these kind of projects, right? And one last thing before we move ahead. What I'm showing you is one of the universities thing I saw. Yeah, I saw like long back, one of the university assignment in US university, they had given as an assignment for students that implement your own web crawler, and some getting started code was also there. It also said like which all design patterns you will use for that. So all that was part of that assignment. This is not that one. That was much structured thing that I'm referring to. Okay. So before we wind up this topic, one last thing that I want to point is, do we have case studies, web crawler? Yeah, this is open. Yeah, I'll share this thing also with you. This is again some outside universities. He's an Indian, University of Colorado, where he has designed and implemented his own parallel crawler. So I have not read this report, but what I saw was the tables that he has come up with. There are more tables than what we thought. What we have thought is getting started, but this is like he has a domain table, a machine table. So table S domain. Yeah, so he has put what fields he's storing in any table and what each field means. So this is a detailed report. It'll be fun to read that once you have put your own thought across for this kind of problem statement. Right, so I'll make sure like I share this report also with you guys. So for now, I'm just dropping it into external references resources. So straight away, you will have this available to you. Yeah. Okay, so that was long answer to a short question that you guys asked. Okay, so Rajiv, now it should be helpful for you to get started on this work. Okay. Okay, memory leaks anyways, there are some bunch of links that you have which you can go through. And in case you still don't find, just let me know. If I'm not able to give the solution, at least can help you get some more information gathered around it from folks who are experienced in that domain.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
Okay. So now coming to Redis cluster part that you were asking as a question. So let me put these links above with crawler. Yeah. So your Redis question, if I understood that correctly, was this Rajiv, you were saying that if I have a Redis cluster, that means there are multiple machines. So R1, R2, R3, there are multiple Redis servers which are forming that cluster. Then where will my data be stored? Will it be stored on all the servers, or that was the question, right, Rajiv?
Yeah, correct. Where it
Yeah.
will get it.
So usually, Rajiv, that is something that we can configure in that cluster. So ideally, if we are building a distributed cache and if we want to put multiple servers, let's say R4, R5, so some configuration parameter will be exposed using which we can tell how many copies of any value, anything that we are storing we want. Typically, we will not store all on all the servers, because what will happen with that is, then what is the point of having multiple servers? When we put multiple servers, we want to achieve two things. First thing is, if one server goes down, another server can serve the request, which is called scaling, right? Second thing is also, when you talk about distributed system, it should also increase your capacity. You remember we talked about distributed file system? Distributed file system was where we were saying we need a replication factor of 3. Any data we are storing should be there on 3 servers. Right, Rajiv? So that depends on our configuration, not on, like, ideally if you configure all the data to be stored on all the servers, you can do that also.
Okay.
Yeah. And most of the things exist in standalone mode and cluster mode both. So ideally, Redis you can run on one server also, and Redis you can run on a cluster of machines also. So when you go with cluster, you want high availability and you want some sort of distributed nature of that. Right. So rather than Redis, treat it as a generic service, any service that you want to be horizontally scaling. If you build a cluster, you will have some sort of settings that you want to specify. Anything else, Rajiv, on this question that you had?
So actually, how we are currently using the Redis is like let's suppose we have our 10 instance of EC2. So
Uh-huh.
we have a master slave architecture Redis. We are not using
Okay.
the cluster.
Uh-huh.
So we were storing all customer data in one Redis box, and while
Uh-huh.
reading, we have a 4 or 5 reading replica server of
Okay.
Redis. So
Mm-hmm.
from that we are but we are not storing all. I mean, like
Rajiv, I lost your voice. Okay. Others, am I audible to you?
we are all storing at.
Okay. Yeah, Rajiv, master slave thing that we write, typically the purpose of that is different. Okay, Rajiv has gone offline. So purpose of master slave is ideally to support writes on master and reads from slave. And this is mainly used to kind of increase the number of users we can serve. This makes our application's responsiveness better. And here we assume our one server is good enough, which can store all the data. Typically, we do that with MySQL server, with Microsoft SQL server, with Oracle also. Master slave configuration's purpose is different. Its purpose is like don't overload one server with read requests also. So I think in your use case is Redis is being used as a database, which is having a master slave configuration. It's not a Redis cluster in that way.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so Amrendra, your ask of like how to get to the ground level detail of how consistent hashing is being used and what are the patterns in which that is used. So there are two things I just have put links here. Just go over that and see like if I can give you more concrete example of consistent hashing being used so that we can see it a little more than the concept.
Okay, sure.
Okay, coming to Ruchika's question. So Ruchika was asking about REST APIs, data passing and authentication. Ideally, yeah. So data passing wise, REST API, Ruchika, can you tell like what sort of APIs we build or what HTTP verbs we use when we are building REST APIs?
You mean the methods we use here?
Yeah, the HTTP methods, yeah.
Okay, so get, post, patch, delete.
Get, post, patch, delete,
Put.
mainly these 5, right?
Right, yeah.
Now, when you make a get call, do you pass some data?
No.
Okay. When you make a post call,
Yes.
yes, we do pass. When we make patch call,
Yes.
yes, because we are kind of updating a resource. When we make a delete call,
No.
no, we usually serve that through the URL. Put call,
Yes.
yes. So ideally, if you see in these, we want to send some data, and how the data goes, that goes as a payload,
Right. Yeah.
right? And the payload that you are sending can be in any format. It can be JSON, it can be a normal string, it can be in terms of XML. So this data is up to you how you are sending. It can be blob data also, binary data also, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So now most of the frameworks that we use on the server side for writing our APIs, they will typically, the function, eventually when you make a post call, eventually it will map to a function on the server side. That you agree?
Yes.
So that function, let's say a receiving function, uh, a receiving function, I'm just using a hypothetical name. That receiving function will have access to two things. One will be request object, one will be response object. This you agree?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So now this request object that you are getting, which is coming from the front end side, this will have some field, some way for you to access the payload that is sent by the client to you. So this is the answer to your question, like how do you pass, how do you get the data? So request contains the data that is sent by client, right? And
Yes.
if you want to send something back to the client, response is used to send data back to the client. And here we also say data can be any form of data, which we said it can be JSON, XML, text, or it can be blob. The other party should know how to kind of interpret the data that is coming.
Okay.
Right? So usually when we make get call, we make around some resource. So let's say you are having a bookstore, so you will have http mybookstore.com. Here you will have books. So when you do a get to that, you are getting all the books. Post when you are doing, that means you are adding a book to it. So you will have post done on this and you will send some book data also, depending on how you have written your backend. If backend expects JSON, XML, text, blob, you will write it that way, right? So post will be this. Now patch will be, usually when we patch one item along with book, you will also send a book ID. So patch, delete usually happen at one resource level. So this is, you will make delete call also to this, you will make put call also to this. In delete call, you will not send any payload. In patch, you will send payload also, that I want to go and update this book. Now this get and post that we were talking about, this get that we were talking about, get happens at one resource level also. If you are interested in knowing details of one book, you will make a get call to that also. So yeah, so this I will say is a get call, right? And there is no thumb rule that says delete cannot be defined on books. So I can create a delete API on books also, which goes and deletes all the books that we have in the database.
Okay.
Yeah. So this answering your question that you wanted to understand?
So like I wanted to understand like how the data is being converted. Like in the REST client, we give it
Mm-hmm,
in the form of JSON, say, and the
mm-hmm,
backend is written in Java. So, I mean, how is that data being converted? I mean, how is that handled? And
Okay, so there are few more things about REST APIs now to be aware of. One is when we have this URL, there are few more things that HTTP request and response contains. So can you tell what goes in the request?
the
What all
URI?
goes in the HTTP request? What all does it go? Let's say URL. And you say payload. Anything else that comes to your
Authentication
mind?
word.
Okay, I'll not
Username,
call
password,
that
like
authentication. Yeah. If you are passing username and password, I'll put that in payload.
okay.
Other guys also, can you pitch in and tell like what all does a HTTP request contain? URL. This payload is specifically data. I'll call this specifically as data that we are sending.
Parameters, headers.
Yeah, query parameters.
So it's like in the
The
user
content type.
Content type. Where does that go? Yeah, you're touching a good point. Content type is where does it go? What kind of data that you are saying? Yeah.
The content type also stays in the headers, right, sir?
Yeah. So there are headers. That's the main point. Like, so HTTP has some header field also, which tells that what headers we are sending. And these query parameters are the ones that we write here after question mark. Param1 is equal to value 1. Right. So to answer your question, Ruchika, we typically send in headers explaining what kind of data we are sending. So it's possible that you define a backend API which can handle both JSON and XML data. So when you are sending JSON data, you will send a header, HTTP header, which tells that data type is JSON. There is a header called content type. That backend should know that I have to read that header and I will be able to make sense out of what kind of data I'm getting.
Right, yeah.
Right. So this and this thing that we are passing here, this resource ID, this is one more additional thing that we have to be cautious, be clear about, that I can have a book ID like this, book ID 1, book ID 2. So I should also have a way to extract in the backend so that we know like which book we want to modify. Now your question was, if front end is sending me the data, who is handling the data, how it is reaching out to me? Ideally, frameworks handle that. The frameworks that we are using to write our backend. If you are writing in Java, if you are writing servlets, servlets internally handle how the data is coming from front end, and servlets technology that is there, they will extract all the data and give to you in a format which is easy for you to kind of extract and use.
Okay.
Right? So this request will simply give you, so your framework will tell that in this request object, there is some field, let's say something, some says, if you use request.payload, it will give you a string back. Or that string will be JSON or what do you say? If it is JSON or XML, for that you will have to get request.headers. They will tell you what kind of headers are coming to you. So ultimately, this request contains all these things in some format or the other. So if you want to know what query parameters are sent, you will be able to extract that also. So that documentation of the framework will tell you. But all these pieces that an HTTP request can contain will reach to you, and the parsing and all is done by the underlying technology.
Okay. Okay. Got it, sir.
Right. So yeah, and one thing earlier that I did not cover was that when we write our HTTP API, so when we make a GET call, we are returning all the books here. So there are some additional things we will talk about in REST APIs. It's like if there are 1 lakh books in your database, will you return all those books through this API?
I think
So here we can give limit here.
Yeah. So there are few more things done here. 3 things are there: filters, pagination. So pagination is what you are talking about. So typically in REST APIs, we add some query parameters. We say it's like page number 1 and limit is equal to 25. So this way you are saying just give me first 25 items. When you say page number 2, that means that gives next 25 items. So this is something that we support. And third thing that we support is sorting. So we use query parameters to support filters. Filter is if you want to get all the books written by one particular author, so you can say filter, my filter is like, and again, this is something we define. REST says if you want to filter, you can use query parameters. So you can say author is equal to, so this way you get all the books authored by this person. And sorting, if you say, you will say sort is equal to author. So people use this approach. If it is author, sort ascending. If it is minus author, sort descending. But again, this query parameter will reach to us. So we kind of read these parameters and we define the strategy, how we are changing the data, dumping the data back, and how we are interpreting these values. People support advanced filters or advanced things also, where they say author not equal to, or author whose age is less than 58. So how do you do less than here? So people come up with their own creative ways of defining those. So one such way, if you want, I can show you. Strappy filters. Yeah, so here I'll show you this supports, yeah, filter, sort, limit, start. Start is something new, but in filters, if you see, he's supporting equals, not equals, less than, greater than. So ideally, if you are saying field name underscore, you define the parameter. So here it is saying, give me all the prices which are greater than or equal to 3. Because ultimately REST API is nothing but it's a kind of layer written on top of database so that we can do all the database operations through REST. Right. So these are some guidelines that when you implement your own APIs, add these things also to your APIs. So this is, let me include that just for reference here. So if you want an example of this, Ruchika, I can give you an example in Node.js. It will be quick to code and show, like how do we get each and every part that we are talking about of this.
Okay, sure.
Right. Okay. And before going there, one more question that you were having was about the authentication, right? So authentications are of multiple types. One is called basic authentication, where with every request you pass your username and password. Second authentication that people use is called token based. So first time you send your username and password to the server. So you make a post request to server for login, and that post request in its response, it sends back to you a token. So server generates a token for you and sends back to you. And what server says is, so there is a rule that you define. You say, if every request I am getting, if there is a token embedded as part of the request, server will validate the token. Server will not validate your username and password afterwards. So that is called token based authentication. So usually what we do, we make a first post request by sending the payload as username and password. From that request, we get a token back. Next time onwards, what we do, we embed that token as part of a request, and we put that token in either headers or in query parameters. So we can use any of those mechanisms, query parameters or headers. When you send the token back, server, because HTTP is a stateless protocol, server extracts that parameters and knows that it is coming from authentic user.
Okay.
And API.judge0, you have seen this API, right? We discussed
Yes.
about this in the class. So here,
Yes.
let's see, here it is defining exact thing. You're authenticating, you go to /authenticate, and what response it sends back. So URI parameters. Oh, this is different. So it is asking for token. Let me go to Yeah, so here if you see, it is saying that once you have got the token from the server, this token, it is putting in the query parameter. Can I say that? That it is making a call that go and authenticate my token.
Okay.
And here he says, if you are fetching submissions, then without token, it is not possible. So in submission, he will be using that token. Has he shown that somewhere? In his documentation, he has not covered. So his backend actually supports two types. So he says, if you put X auth user in the URL, he will extract from the URL and he will validate this. Or second, you can put this as part of the HTTP header also. ADER. Okay, here it is not specified in his documentation, but I have seen his code. In his code, he searches in both the places. He says, do we have any token in the URL or do we have a token in the headers? If anywhere he finds the token, he tries to validate, is that a valid token or not? So this is how we kind of use token based authentication.
Okay. So it's like first time when you make a request using the username and password, you get the token and you use that token for further requests.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
For our sites, it works that way. And if you are using a third-party API, those APIs, those sites provide you a way to get the token from them. I mean, you can go and generate a token from UI directly. And they say we will use token-based authentication only. You don't have to log into you don't have to do a first login. You just use token and you always have access to our site.
Okay.
Facebook API token. So if you are using Facebook related APIs, if you have a Facebook account, on their UI somewhere they allow you to go to their UI and they say you can generate your tokens from our site. So you can get one-time token issued for you, app access token, page access token, and then this is what is describing. Client requests, user authenticates, approves. So this login with Google, login with Facebook, the way it works is when you redirect someone to a third-party site, that site authenticates. So on MentorPick, when you log in with Google, your Google credentials are sent to Google. Google issues a token to you and returns back to us that this is the token I'm giving to this person. As long as this person is sending you this token, you can treat him to be logged in.
Okay.
Right?
So in this, will there be any expiry for the token? Like it'll
Yeah.
ask for, yeah.
Yeah. So that tokens allow us to do that also. So with every token, we can set some expiry. And if after expiry somebody sends a token, then server send the response back that your token has expired. So your client has to get a new token issued. Right? So yeah, those all like token-based authentication provides you all sort of mechanism. So you can have expiry also with tokens.
So how secure is this method, like passing the token in the URL itself?
Yeah. So now it's a point like how tokens are generated. That's the security related question, right? So usually the way tokens are generated at the backend, it's a combination of multiple things. So when you generate the token, imagine if I am generating the token, when request is coming, in this request, we have some data about the client also. When an HTTP request comes, you can know which client it is coming from, right? So you take client machine details into picture, from which machine it is coming, right?
Right.
Second thing, you take, let's say, person's username. Third thing, you put your own secret also. So server uses its own secret also, its own password kind of thing, you can say. It is for token generation, right? And second thing that happens is token verification. First time you issued a token to someone, that token was sent back. When second time a request comes, so that request contains the token also, right?
Right.
So what you do, second time when the request comes, you again take these three things, you generate your own token once again. Server generates the token once again, right? And then it sees the new token that he has generated and the token you are passing are the same or not. Right, Ruchika? So if you take my machine's token and if you pass that to server, so you have sent a token generated for me. You somehow got access to my token, right?
Yes.
Now, if you send a request to the server and imagine server is generating server for verification, he got your token. He says, I will verify your token, but I will generate a new token for this request. So server is taking these three fields. Your machine details. Now, this time, if you are sending a request from your machine, the client details have changed, right?
Right. Yeah.
Username, you can still morph. You can take my username, but server's secret is also same. So this time the token generated will be different. Your token sent is different. So it will say token is mismatching. You are not a valid user,
Okay. Okay.
right? So we have to be cautious. Like on server side, how we are making sure that one person's token, if somebody else has stolen, should not be usable. So again, those things come into picture there. If we are not considering client machine details, then obviously that token can be used by anyone. And API tokens are like that. API tokens once issued, anyone can use it. So that's why companies tell you that, hey, keep your token safe. Don't give it to anybody else. Otherwise, they will have access to all your data.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. And in EC2 example, the PEM file, you remember, Ruchika, we all have a PEM file downloaded.
Yes. Yes.
Can we say that is a token that Amazon has given you to log into your EC2?
Right. Yes.
So that is also like a different sort of token. This is a text token. Here we are talking about a text token. The other token that you have got, it's a binary token. But this is kind of server has given you one file so that every time you don't have to put your username and password. Okay. Now let's quickly do that. CD this, yeah. So mkdir, this is to show the payload demo.
Sir, I'm clear with the payload part. So,
Okay. What part you are interested? I mean, interested in knowing?
so yeah, like as you explained that authorization part, right? So mainly I was
Uh-huh.
interested in that and the
Okay.
security part. Yeah, that's clear for me.
Okay. So not required anything to be done.
Yeah, not from my side at least. Yeah.
Okay. Sure. Okay. Then I think, yeah, if you are clear, so ideally we should know how to extract all these parts: payload, query parameters, and headers. If these three things you know how to extract, then it's all a kind of rule between front end and back end that you are defining. Yeah,
Yeah,
Hanuman.
can you please complete that what you planned for, if that doesn't take much time, this demo?
Okay. Sure. Sure. Okay. So let me say code server.js. Okay, so I'll do npm init, again a new project creation I'm doing. Again, hit all the enters. So this is a project. I'll do npm install express minus minus save. So express is just the web server part. Yeah, so the code for express I'll download again from express site, express hello world. So I don't remember all this syntax. I'll always copy the hello world example from there and get started. Yeah, so express, how do we write a simple web server is this. Let's copy that and put that here. So here, ideally, if you see every function that we are having, it is getting a request and has a response. So this is what I was saying. Express is taking care of parsing everything and giving you request and response. So I will write one API here, post API this time, and I'll say this is, let me call the URL for that is API. This is a shorthand way of writing the code, and I'll write a function. Function is request comma response and a body of the function. So this is as good as saying this, that I do not want to write the keyword function and I can go and define. So this is that shorthand notation. So I'm just going with more elaborate way. And this is where we will try to print everything. So I will print headers here that we will be passing. Then I'll say after printing the headers, we should have query parameters. Third thing we will say, let's say payload, which is body. And fourth thing I will say will be, what else we talked about in that query parameters header. Yeah, this will be query parameters only. Okay, so this will be the thing. Yeah, so if I want, so Ruchika's question was like how the data is coming from front end to back end and how back end is extracting it. Sometimes front end and back end client may have some sort of encoding also. The data may not be flowing as a plain text. So before it reaches us, it gets decoded. So let's say front end is sending some JSON data, but when it is passed, it gets serialized to some encoded form. So usually we say that is encoded data. But that front end and back end shake hand is there. Handshake is there where they say like I'm sending encoding data, this is the type of encoding. So Express will decode that data for us. So here we can safely assume that all the data we are getting will come in the form of decoded string. But in Express, typically Express says I will not do any sort of decoding. So Express uses one third-party module called body parser. So what that body parser does, whatever data front end is sending, it reads the data from that and it populates body field of request. So right now request will not have a body field. That body field is added by a third-party module called body parser. So we'll quickly do body parser express.js. So I'll get one more module here. Yeah, so this is the body parser we are talking about. So we have to do npm install of body parser so that we get that module. So once that comes, we have to use some lines of code. Yeah, how to use body parser, this is what it is telling. So I'm just copying these lines. For you to easy understand, keep in mind that when we have these two lines will make sure that all the data that is coming from the front end, all the data will get added to request.body. So if I go and say console.log, and if I say json.stringify req.body, this body will have all the data, and this body will be filled by this body parser module. And this body parser module is something that Express and body parser work in collaboration with each other. So we are creating a body parser here, and this body parser will be attached to Express somewhere. We have body parser this. I think yeah, that should be good. Here we have to do this, sorry. In Express, we have to attach body parser. So I'm just copying app.use. Yeah, so ideally I should do this app.use. I'm telling Express that you can use this body parser for doing the parsing. And same thing I'll say for URL encoding also. So this is again like Node.js related stuff. Okay, so now let's try to run this server and try to send some data. And I'll also send response res.json. And here I'll send a data like message colon success. So this is something that front end will receive back from the back end. So some request comes, we are logging the body here plus this. Okay, so let me go ahead and run my node server. So node server.js. So it started running on port 3000. So 3000 it is listening. If I hit just /get, it will just send hello world, but we are more interested in calling our post API. So for post, I'll open a client called Postman. So it's a UI way of hitting. Typically browsers will not allow us to make post request. So we use either curl command or Postman. So I go to request name, let's say just some random name, not required. Yeah, I go to 3000, I go to /API because ideally if you see API is something that I have defined as the endpoint. So localhost 3000 API, and I'm doing a post. Headers we add here. So for now, let me get rid of headers that are there. Body we add here. So this is a raw body. I can go to drop down and I can say that this is a JSON type content that we are sending, some email ID and some password. And header body authorization is about the authentication that we typically use. So right now I'm not getting to that. Okay, this again added. Yeah. See, when we added our body type is JSON or application data, it automatically added a header for us, content type application/JSON, because this UI is handling all that. So in our header, we are telling what kind of content we are sending back. And this is the body. So let me hit send. So when I did send, I got a response back, message success. So where it is coming from? It is coming from this, because this is the data we wrote. Now, whatever request we sent, it would have logged something. I go to command prompt. I see that it has printed body contained email address. This was the email address I sent. This is the password I sent. So the body part that we are sending from Postman, this is received on the backend side. So this is the first part of sending our body. So now I want to see the request.headers, what headers I'm getting. So I'll say console.log. Headers are coming with JSON.stringify. So let me, ideally this will not be JSON, but let me still see. Okay, so we go to the front end. Okay, since I have changed the code, we have written new code, so I'll have to stop and start the server. Let's go back and hit it once again. Now if we see, okay, headers are coming here. So now if you see what all is coming in the header, so we are getting host, which host we are hitting, which is localhost 3000. Connection is type keep alive. Content length, how much content is being sent, that is 65 in that HTTP request. We have 65 bytes kind of content. Fetch mode, course. So lot of internal parameters are also sent. So HTTP by default will have some parameters. Some origin is Chrome extension, because this we are using this Postman we are using, it was initially a Chrome extension, so it is saying that I'm originating. So it is kind of specifying the client type. What is the user agent? The type of client, it is Mozilla based agent which is sending the request. Postman token, it is sending some sort of token, which is this. Content type is application JSON, accept is this, fetch, cross site. So ideally, if you see, all these are headers, right? And if I'm interested in one particular header, now header is, I can say console.log, I can say request.headers. I can give the header name, content type. Yeah, I can get this header printed. So this is get me content type. So we will get this header also. At the same time, let me add one more thing, console.log req.query. So our query parameters will be coming here. So let me make that also JSON.stringify, because in JavaScript code that we write, typically everything comes as the JSON structure. So I can print that query parameters also, QP, just to show that how we receive query parameters. So let me close this, run it once again, go back. Here I'm adding some additional parameters. Let's say my token is ABCXYZ, just a dummy parameter I'm adding. Send. And when we have sent that, let's go back and take a look at token I have got in query parameter. Content type is this, and all the headers are these, and body is this. So passing data from the client to backend server is easy, and we know how to access or gain access to the data is this way, right? So this is the part that we were ideally talking about. Hanumant, does that make
Yeah,
sense?
thanks a lot. Yeah, correct.
Yeah. And yeah, one more part that I was forgetting was this, that you typically say you can make a call with a particular ID also, right? So what is that ID that we are getting? So sometimes, like this is, this is a variable parameter that will change with every book. And when we were talking about APIs, we were talking about this, that when you make a delete call, you will send some variable value, which is not a fixed value. So ideally, those things are also, there is a provision to specify that. So here I have put that with this, and these parameters that we get, they are received in params console.log. So I say request.params, and I can say .id. So this will give me this particular ID that we are getting from the front end. So ID is this. So now I can make a call running the server once again. I can make a call to API 1 or API 10, anything. I hit once again. And here, if you see this ID is also I'm able to get. And if I want to add more parameters in query parameters, my token2 is equal to some junk and say send. I had clicked there, so now hit enter. So we see now we are getting 2 tokens back. So to and fro of data and parsing every part has become easy. Now all that we have to do in order to define our REST APIs is kind of how we are honoring these. How we are parsing these parameters to support the 3 things that we talked about: filters, pagination, sorting, and leveraging those parameters, we go and do the processing on the database or in our business layer. Right. So this is an example of getting the data. Now, ultimately, writing a delete call, put call, patch call is just changing this from post to put or post to delete. And these APIs we can make available in various formats. Right, guys. So this is what we had. Do we have any more questions from anyone?
Nothing from my side.
Okay. Cool. So I
So, sir,
guess
regarding day 3 and day 4 class notes, I think, is it updated to the notes?
okay.
Because
Okay, I'm not sure.
yeah,
Let me see if they are not updated. Then I'll just put them. Class notes. Yeah, only week 1 class notes are there. So in fact, now you will have these 3 also. Right, and if you want me to put this example, I can put that also, server.js, for in case somebody wants to refer to it. We had put that in payload demo. Or let me put that payload demo directly as the project. I'm deleting node modules folder, because node modules folder is something that you can easily get access to. Yeah, if you do npm install, that folder comes automatically because all the dependencies are there in our package.json file. So all the dependencies come back. So this is not required to be uploaded. In fact, this log file is also not required. Only 2 files are good enough. So send to compressed folder and just drag this demo here. Yeah. Okay, guys, then see you on Saturday. So this weekend we will have class, and next weekend is something that we have canceled the class because many people wanted that break. Some people for Diwali, and some people so that they get more time to work on this crawler implementation. Right. Does anybody have concerns on this decision? No.
no.
Okay.
No,
Okay.
sir.
Okay. Great. Then see you on Saturday.
Thanks. Bye.
Thanks.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
Most welcome. Yeah. Okay. Bye. Good night.
Good night, sir.
Yeah. Good night.